Hi, I'm Broma,
And I'm Radhika.
and this is Promrad Approved.
Yay! New branding. Welcome back to our show. It's been a while since we recorded, so we're a little rusty.
Yeah.
Um, but before we jump into today's topic, we just wanted to remind you that we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and we have social accounts on Instagram and TikTok, so you will find clips and you can reach out to us on all of these platforms. Tell your friends, like, comment, subscribe, DM it to whoever, all the things.
We're trying to monetize this, and we're significantly far from doing that. But
Right now, it's just our
every single
friends.
follower counts.
Yeah, right now it's just our friends and we love you, but we need to
Well,
expand.
our friends in your hinge date.
Honestly, Bumble date. But this
Bumble
is my
date.
new marketing strategy. When people ask me what I'm doing, I like very much struggle to answer that question. And so I was like, well, I have a podcast, I'm a journalist, I don't know. And then they were like, are you on YouTube? Can I follow it? So like I got us a subscriber and I will
No,
continue to
that's
do
very
so.
good. I'm so proud of you. Maybe I'll get on back on the apps to just for that
Yeah,
purpose.
do it for the good of our podcast. It's
And
your
that feels like
civic duty.
a noble cause. That's more motivation than I had previously. So
There we go.
if you share the podcast, we'll keep updating you on what all of our app
On our
dates say.
yeah, an added bonus to subscribe is getting to hear about dating in New York and LA, which are two of the worst cities to date in my opinion.
That opinion is prom rat approved.
There we go. So for today's episode, something that we have been talking about internally between us and I think with other people that follow the industry is how much IP has been driving the stories that are being told both on TV and film. So, of course, there's like the Marvel superhero conversation, but I think this is driving even further into TV. The example that we are mostly talking about here is like Ted Lasso revival, and it was supposed to end with season three, and it kind of did. I guess they never fully announced that that was the end of it.
Ted Lasso season 4 is out now. This is a weird one, and I think it's why it sparked this conversation for us because it felt so conclusive when season 3 ended. Like they had the big wedding, they had Ted going back to America. It felt like the end, but Apple would not call it the end. And it hasn't even been that long. Like it's weird to call it a revival, but it feels like a revival. We're not going to spoil anything. It does feel very much like they're coming back to it after a long time, even the characters themselves. And it was just a kind of an emotionally confusing experience that prompted wanting to talk more about this. In some cases, it's the reboots, revivals, spin-offs. In some cases, it's something that has been gone for a while, has earned nostalgia and goodwill, and sometimes, like with Ted Lasso, it's been gone for like 2 years. And it is just a fourth season, but it came about in such a weird way.
And like you said, the season three was felt very conclusive and it was very poorly received. But that aside,
I hated
I
it.
I hated it as well. But it's interesting because that's an example of a show that had such a big audience, and I do think that the not just critical approval, but like the public approval of it very much faltered by the end of it. So it's interesting that they were like, "There's more story to tell here, and we have to go back to the well and like do this," because usually the purpose of doing it is that it's such a well-loved piece of IP or story that people are clamoring for more of it. And I don't know that that's the case with Ted Lasso.
Are we in the minority on that? Like,
And that's what I was
did
wondering.
did the wider audience still love it and eat it up? Because I even saw like a lot of critics whose opinions I trust. There's one episode in particular that really irritated me, which was when they went to Amsterdam, because it
Amsterdam.
just felt like such a shell of what they had done previously. I think season 1 they go to a different city for a match, and it's this whole like one-off adventure where everyone kind of goes off and does their own thing, and that was a lot of fun. And the Amsterdam episode felt like such a pale imitation of that. And I saw people online being like, "This is the best." Again, critics who I trust, who I agree with on a lot of things, who were like, "This is an amazing episode, one of the best they've ever done." And I was like, "Am I crazy?" And I still don't know.
I didn't hate that episode. I hated the ending though, and whatever weird like dreamland thing
When they
that
were like in
happened.
like
I
Stonehenge or
was
something,
so confused,
or
and
like
the
CGI
CGI was
slop
so bad.
Stonehenge.
It was so bad. I was like, is this truly the same show? Like I was so confused. And I do think people had that reaction to the ending. I have not done my research, but I hope that people had that reaction because I don't know what was redeemable about it, but that's my own opinion.
And then the other thing, like at the time that we're recording, Disney's live action Moana is in theaters and it's struggling. They're like maybe not going to make back the amount of money they need at the box office. And I saw something yesterday of a Disney exec saying that, the lesson they've learned from this is that it's too soon. Basically, there's not enough nostalgia for the original Moana to do the live action Moana. And what they said in this statement was like, people really wanted Moana 3, not live action
Mm.
Moana. And I don't think that even that is maybe the right message. Maybe Moana 3 because the animated ones do well. And like kids who are invested in the property, I think get very excited about more story with those characters. The same way that adults do for something like Marvel or Star Wars or did previously. The live action Disney remakes, I would love to just what are we doing?
And here's my thing is I have not watched most of them because they're so bad.
It's been I think a decade now of doing this, right? Since maybe was Beauty and the Beast one of the first ones? Beauty and the Beast was pretty early. You've done
Cinderella
Aladdin,
was
you've
pretty
done
early. Yeah.
Lion King, which was still animated just by computers. Like you didn't audition lions. What do we
And I feel like the storyline with every single one of the releases is that it was not successful. So I am actually quite confused about what's going on there, of like why they keep greenlighting it and thinking that this next one's gonna work because it
They
just
have
none
to
of
get
them have worked.
successful enough financially for them to keep doing it. But they're never like
Yeah.
they're often critically panned or, treated as this like soulless attempt at money
Yeah.
grubbing for nostalgia.
On the flip side of this, like Disney live action, like, that's really interesting that that was the takeaway was that kids want a Moana 3 because Minions and Monsters is like the seventh whatever in the front, like seventh entry into the franchise. And I don't think that did very well either. So I don't know that that is actually the takeaway. I think the takeaway is that people want new stories and they want new characters to get attached to. Even Toy Story 5, I don't think it did as well as its predecessors.
And this is related to the overall decline in box office, which is just like this cloud hovering over all of the studios right now, too, is how do you get people to go back? But the things that we saw this year that actually increased audience attendance in theaters were Backrooms and Obsession, one of which is an original story with despite whatever like roots it has and other inspirations. And Backrooms was kind of existing IP, but they turned it into a different format, which was brought it to a lot of newer audiences. Those really moved tickets and got butts in seats. And that should be the lesson from that. That's what we were talking about just before we started recording, the horror angle in all of this. Backrooms Obsession, Sinners was a big one that drove theatrical attendance last year.
And then we said Widow's Bay on TV. That one's interesting because I don't know people outside of New York and LA watching it, but it got a ton of Emmys. Apple doesn't release viewership, but I'm assuming people are watching it because Matthew Reese people like. And I don't know how much marketing Apple did, but again, it's another horror genre story that is resonating.
And original, to our point at least.
Original, yes.
Something that has gotten critical acclaim, at least in awards recognition, and that is a brand new, exciting story. Because that's the other, like, that's not a motivator behind IP grabs, right? Is like, oh, we're going to win a lot of awards. It is financial. And I don't know, I feel like that's,
It's entirely financial.
yeah, I feel like we're, like, some people are still, like, studios, execs and stuff are, like, being coy about that. You can just say this is going to earn us money. Occasionally
Yeah.
they do. They, like, code it in flowery language.
But I think what's interesting is that this has always been a thing in Hollywood, both in TV and film. We were again talking about some backdoor pilots, and that's always been a TV thing that happens. But it was so fewer and far between, and it was exciting when your show that you were really invested in was potentially going to get a backdoor pilot, and that would lead to a potential spin-off of like characters that you love in a new setting. One of my favorite ones is Private Practice, got that, which was the Grey's Anatomy spin-off. I remember they tried to do the Magic Motor Inn spin-off from Fresh Off the Boat with Preeti Zinta, Veer Das, and Megan Suri.
Oh,
And that
yeah.
did not take, unfortunately. But like I like that, that was like something that people were trying and interested in. But now it's not necessarily coming in a backdoor pilot thing. It's like Beef getting season two when it was supposed to be a limited series. And it's just like, okay, we're just gonna like reboot this whole thing, but like use the nomenclature that people are familiar with.
Yeah, because it did well, because the numbers, the viewership was there, because the awards was there. So let's keep the creative team and like do a whole new thing. So we still have Beef, and the people who loved Beef will come back to watch more Beef, even though it's a new story. We get to work with the creative team. We get to get those awards nominations, which they did. That's why so many things that were supposed to be limited series have turned into anthologies and had multiple seasons. I mean, look at all of the Ryan Murphy properties. I mean, maybe by the time we got to like, Crime Story or Love Story, the newest one, it's now understood that that's probably going to spin off into a franchise. But even when American Horror Story started, like 2011, they cannot have been like, yeah, this is going to go 14 seasons, at least up to 12.
I never watched a single frame of that, so
I'm gonna
cannot comment.
not even for Connie Britton.
Absolutely not. I support her in everything that she does, but not in horror.
Her season was the
And
best.
especially American Horror Story is like actually scary. Well, at least that like Coven, whatever, the images that I saw, I was like, I am so out on this.
It is 12.
Absolutely not for me.
Coven is I think the last one I watched in full.
Yeah, I mean, even his whole like monster franchise, like he's ripping his IP is like ripping things from real life and like dramatizing them
Yeah. Well, and
to
also
varying
this
degrees
is
of success.
maybe we need to do a whole Ryan Murphy up because also it's almost exclusively in the 90s, a lot of this
Yeah.
stuff. But to go back to your point about the spin-offs, the backdoor pilots, like you mentioned two of the earlier ones too, like Frasier, which
Hmm.
did really well, went for many seasons, and then we have Joey, which kind of just like
Yeah.
flamed out in just a few episodes, and those were kind of around the same time period. So even then, even when Friends was so successful, that couldn't be translated into the spin-off. So it just doesn't always work out.
Yeah, I forgot about Joey entirely. Another good one was like Better Call Saul, spun off of Breaking Bad. There are times when it's successful, and I think when it's like the story is good, people are more forgiving about the fact that like we know the world and we've already like been part of it because there felt like there was more story to tell there.
In some cases, I fear that it dilutes the nostalgia. If you have a few seasons of a show that you really like, and then this spin-off or the sequel comes in and isn't as good, it taints your overall appreciation of the thing. Sometimes it doesn't. Arrested Development is still held in high esteem, but I never hear anyone talk about the Netflix seasons. Not a word, not a peep.
They were bad.
But it has not touched their love for the originals, which is really nice. Wait, that's what. Let me tell you about my shirt.
Oh my God, George Bluth, or not George Bluth, Joe.
Let me describe for our people who are on audio only. My shirt is a cross between Arrested Development and Trix the cereal, Trix. First we have the rabbit, silly rabbit Tricks Are for Kids, but he's Job Bluth on his
Anna,
little
Anna,
segment,
yeah.
the wand. But Job doesn't like the word tricks. They're illusions, Michael. So the top it says illusions in Trix font, and then there's a bowl of Trix cereal where all of the Trix pieces are things for Arrested Development: a banana, a blue man, a martini, a dead dove, and a stair car. Thank you.
How do you feel?
I feel like I just did show and tell.
Well, the best part, again, another look behind the curtain is every single time we record, one of us, mostly me, is texting, like, what do I wear? Promo today was like, I'm wearing a really cool shirt that's just going to be out of frame. And so she
Yeah,
took the first opportunity to bring it to light. And honestly, I love it. I'm here for it. The people at home need to know.
they do. This I bought this on Tumblr in like 2012.
It's an excellent shirt.
I think it was like $12. It was
You
different
should wear
times.
this on every first date and determine if they can follow us based on if they get the. Well, actually, we are an open. We will take any followers, but it will determine whether they get another date if they know the reference.
Yeah, I try not to administer pop culture tests on dates because it's so hard to pass.
Okay, you're
I
better
think
than
I'd be
I.
intrigued to go on a date with a guy who's like, I don't have a TV or something, or like, I don't watch TV, and I'd be like, okay.
I've done that. That's all I'll say about that.
And then I get to introduce him to everything. I get to woman-splain television to him.
That is fun. But then it's like homework, I don't know.
Yes.
I wanted to bring this up, but there's a Friday Night Lights reboot in the works, and I'm really nervous about it. It's not the same characters. It's going to be an entirely like reboot, new series, like new characters, new storylines. And like I'm in two minds about it because if it can capture the original ethos of what made that show so special, which is character driven, small town stories, like things that you can relate to and people from different sides of town interacting with each other and like what interesting things come of that. I could be down. Like I will definitely watch it to like see, but no, again, this is one where I'm like nothing will touch the original for me. So I'm also kind of like, why bother? Just do a different show and put it like name it something else.
Yeah, but then it's like you can't automatically pull in the Friday Night Lights fan base. Like
Exactly.
you yourself are less likely to watch without that connection.
Exactly. I know, but I'm like watching it like at a distance,
Some more that we've seen is the Legally Blonde prequel, Elle. There was the Sex and the City prequel, Carrie. The Sex and the City
Carrie.
sequel, and Just Like That, which has, I think, done very well for itself, though I do feel like people are maybe like chaos hate watching it.
Hate watching for sure. I loved it. Like it is so bad, but I had so much fun watching it. I was really sad actually that it ended.
Did you watch the Scrubs reboot?
No. Here's my
Okay,
thing, I
moving
never
on.
watched the Scrubs original, really.
Oh,
Like, I
you know,
mean, I've seen a few episodes here and there, but it was not something that I like have like religiously watched ever.
I think I watched all of it. I don't remember a damn thing. It wasn't for me.
I guess I'm like interested in what things get this type of treatment and what things don't, because going back to one of our sacred texts, Lost never got anything that was like, here's a Saeed spin-off or like,
I think
any of those types of things.
I know they did the epilogue with Hurley and Ben on the island. I've heard people mention that maybe that was intended to be some sort of backdoor pilot, but that would have been a not a successful show.
Yeah. I mean, Lost is one of those things where it's like you can't spin it unless you're doing a prequel of these how these people's lives intertwined before they got to the island. Like it makes sense that there isn't one. I was just using that as an example of like it had such a huge fan base, and if you're gonna try to bring that audience somewhere else, it's like what do you do? And I think maybe what they've done is like had similar shows. Like wasn't there that like Manifest show?
Mhm.
There's other things that have been kind of in that vein, and you just have to like market it to those people.
Ooh,
Yeah.
maybe I should like binge Manifest. I feel like I would get in
I've
on.
never seen it. Should we do that?
Yeah,
Promrad approved, potentially?
yeah. The show that ended like 2 years ago. It's fine. We don't have rules,
Yeah.
other than that our names are in here. I was gonna say two of my other sacred texts are Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was pretty quickly after spun off into Legend of Korra. I guess not spun off, but like it's a sequel series that takes place like decades, maybe a century later, and it is really well done. A lot of the fan criticism of Legend of Korra is rooted in misogyny, but overall, it is like an amazing piece of world building, I think, and has some really fun characters, episodes, one-liners. I do talk to people about that show, and we can name check the characters in a way that I don't think we could with a lot of sequel series. Then, and also that has turned into that got a live action movie. Moving on, and a live action series, which is now going and is doing well on Netflix. Like the first season did well enough despite being kind of average to get a second and third greenlit, and it's like brought in all this amazing Asian American talent, and it's become a great vehicle for them to do action, drama, comedy, enter this really, really exciting world. And then another one, Boy Meets World, got Girl Meets World. What's really interesting with that is that there's a generation who grew up on Girl Meets World having never even seen Boy. And so their entry now
Wow.
into like the Boy Meets World rewatch podcast has been popping off. Their entry into that is they know like Topanga, Sean, Eric from Girl Meets World. And that, if anything, that made them watch Boy, made them listen to the podcast.
Wait, that's actually crazy to me that people would tune in. I mean, I guess that's the intended thing, right? Is like they've found a new audience entirely based off of this really successful show.
And I think the timing made more sense because it had been over a decade since Boy ended.
Yeah. I think that is the key of like if you're doing this and comes back to the Ted Lasso part of it where it's like not enough time has passed where it'll be interesting because I don't know if they're going to bill it as a continuation or is it
I
just
think
fourth
so. The
season?
original announcement was like Ted Lasso season 4 is coming, and everyone was like, "Hey, what? You've seen the first episode, right?" It
Yeah,
feels very much like
it
a
is.
revive. I don't know.
No, it is definitely giving that. We have to get back into the story somehow and get people back into that world in a very specific way. So I don't know. It never got canceled, so but it's weird because they wrote themselves into a corner that I would argue they should have just stayed in, but we'll see. I haven't watched the rest of season 4, so I don't want to be mean.
Going back to the theatrical angle, a lot of these bigger franchises, I think, have really seen the decline in viewership because of that. There's now, this is not a new conversation, but like Marvel fatigue has been talked about honestly since the pandemic, and it's hard to unravel some of this from the pandemic because you have Avengers Endgame come out in 2019, and then COVID hits, affects theatrical releases like Shang-Chi, Spider-Man No Way Home, which still I think we're still doing pretty well for the time given like restrictions that were happening. But then also that was the same time that Disney started doing all of the Disney Plus series about the different superhero properties, and there are a lot of those, but people just got overwhelmed and tired. I really think the simplest explanation is the likeliest one, and it's that. And the same thing happens when a new one comes in theaters now. It happened with The Mandalorian and Grogu. People love that little guy. And it
Yeah, the
did like
oversaturation of.
it was going like tracking behind Obsession for box office for a while. By the time this episode comes out, the new Spider-Man movie starring Tom Holland will have been in theaters, and I'm curious how that one does because they have been ramping up to it for a long time. Maybe it's also just more in my feed because Tom Holland is one of the few celebrities I follow on Instagram.
I actually don't follow him. Maybe I should. I follow Zendaya. Yeah, I think those movies, it's interesting because I do think Spider-Man is a different breed compared to some of those other Marvel things. And I say this as someone who has like little to no interest in superhero stuff, but I love Spider-Man and I will watch all the Spider-Man things. It's a very easy entry point into that superhero world because it's based on like a teenager and like most of us have been introduced because especially because they've rebooted it so many times with different characters or I mean different actors.
We've had
Yeah.
like four successful Spider-Man movie franchises in our not even like lifetime, but since we were like 10 years old, which is
Hmm.
pretty interesting. In addition
Yeah.
to TV shows, comic books, everything that came before it. So the nostalgia factor is upped by how long it's been out there, but then maybe diluted by like, how much has been done with it.
Yeah.
Something about comic books too, because of the way that the original texts are, and there's like so many different worlds and strains and like issues and kind of choose your own adventure stuff. I think that audience is generally more open to a reboot or a reset, at least specific to Spider-Man and maybe like Batman and Superman. Superman fans have really gone through it, and I'm sorry for that.
Yeah. I guess yeah, because each one of them centered on a different portion of the comic books. With Tobey Maguire, it was very focused on him and MJ, and then with Andrew, we got Gwen Stacy. Yeah. So it's like you got like different aspects of it, and even the Tom Holland version is like kind of doing both. It seems like it might, right? I don't know.
I think the weaker parts of the Andrew Garfield movies are because it tried to retread the exact stuff that's in the first Toby movie, and they were like, "Let's just start over," and everyone's like, "Well, we've kind of seen this."
We've done
Um,
this, yeah.
I was cool to pick up with Tom Holland like after all that origin stuff has happened, and he's just a fully formed Spider-Man.
Yeah. So
And
like
then
I'll
Spider-Verse, of
always
course, just being like,
Spider-Verse is amazing. Yeah, I'll always show up for a Spider-Man movie.
I didn't know that about you.
I, huh? Yeah, I love it. I don't know. It's formative for some reason. Because I think those were the first ones. Like, I didn't grow up obviously watching or reading the comic books or anything. So I think when the Tobey Maguire movies came out, it was like a pretty formative time when I watched all of them and I have the Spider-Man 2 soundtrack like CD in my parents' house.
Great
It's a great
soundtrack.
one. One of the best. So I think I just like latched onto that. My parents also had the Batman Forever CD. Yes, because it had Kiss from a Rose on it, correct. Yes. Yep. My parents have that. So those were my two entry points into superheroes. But yeah, I mean, I think those are like evergreen stories. I don't think Marvel's like going anywhere. I just think they need to pump the brakes and not be like releasing so much stuff because people just don't have the bandwidth, first of all, and like there is a fatigue of constantly being in these worlds that they are constantly also doing a dark version of these stories where it's like here's like the gritty underground like
Yeah.
underbelly of the world that they live in, which like feels realistic, but like we're also trying to like escape from some of that stuff that is actually happening in this world.
I've liked most of the Disney Plus series, and frankly, as soon as they stopped paying me to watch them, I have not. And
Yeah.
I've heard good things. I've heard good things about Daredevil season 2. I've heard good things about Wonder Man. I just have not.
Yeah, I heard good things about Wonder Man too, because that one's supposed to be funny too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A fun kind of meta angle with the actors and such.
Yeah. And I think Yaya got a Emmy nomination, so that's
Oh
exciting.
my God, I forgot he won for Watchmen. Oh,
Yeah. Watchmen, another great example of an adaptation and like such a fresh take on it. And that's where it's like kind of worth. I think of Barry Jenkins as the Underground Railroad adaptation of a book, but his take on it was so fresh and so visually stunning. Not enough people have talked about that show just in general. It was so stunning. I
yeah.
loved it.
It's on a lot of lists. And that, you know what? That's actually a good example, though, of one that was rightfully so left alone.
Yeah. I guess like the other aspect of reboots, revivals, and spin-offs, but adaptations are such a big thing right now, especially in the female and YA space, because there's all the Hoover books that are getting adapted, the Ellen Hilderbrand ones with like Five Star Weekend,
The Emily Henry
Emily
universe.
Henry universe. And then we have like the whole YA, like Heated Rivalry, obviously, Off Campus every year after. Like all of these are books being adapted.
And then so many things you don't realize at first. Like some show will come out, some limited series, some movie, and I'm like, oh, that was great. What a great original story. That no, it is not. Which is and that's fine. When you do a good job adapting it and bringing it to a new audience, there's a lot to be said for that. But again, it's Hollywood just looking everywhere for these new stories, finding them in books, finding them on social media.
A good example is The Invite that we watched together and we both loved. And then when we were like reading more about it later, it's been adapted like 7 times. It started as a play and it's like been in so many different languages. This is the first English language adaptation. And so like I don't know what the other versions were and like what was changed from version to version. I don't know, part of me like is sad because I had like thought of it as like, oh, this is an original story and like how fun we're getting a fun, like thought-provoking original movie in the way that the drama actually was that, you know, like to my knowledge, I don't think that stemmed from anywhere other than the writer-director's brain. So it's interesting like that even some of those like adult dramas are like also adaptations at the end of the day.
Or like Voicemails from Isabel, which we also watched when we were together, which I was confidently, like white male confidence, like that's based on a book, and then we looked it up and it wasn't.
Yeah, and it felt like such a book adaptation.
Yeah. I wonder if there was a pitch of that like the writer had crafted for a book.
Yeah, like a query, as they say.
So we've mentioned a lot of titles. Mileage clearly varies, success varies. There's so many factors that go into it. You know, we've mentioned declining box office, COVID. I mean, some cases just luck in terms of like what gets picked up, what gets produced, distributed, etc. And like what's just kind of the overall feeling. I think one thing is just, you know, it's not going away, even if there is fatigue around it. This is kind of just the current state of the industry, and the only way out is through, if there is a way out. So, something to make peace with to some extent. You can obviously engage or not engage as much as you want as a viewer. But then I'm really, again, I hope that the right lessons are being taken from Obsession, Widow's Bay, Sinners, all of these original things that are breaking. Ultimately, because the quality of the product is so good. I hope that there is a push going on the studio side to really continue seeking out original storytelling and storytellers. There's so many people making such amazing things with bootstrapped budgets or no money at all, or actually within the industry system, but maybe not getting to the level that they want. Oh yeah,
Us included. But
more
yeah,
on that later.
yeah, more on that. But we include ourselves in that. But like we've been saying, horror has been kind of the space where I think these original stories are given the space to flourish. And like you just said, I hope that the lesson from Obsession is taken, that people are craving these original stories. Because half of going to it is like, you don't know what to expect. And I just went to go see this movie, Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass, that we talked about when we got coffee with our friend. I had a blast. That movie is so dumb, but it was so funny and I had so much fun. And I think part of it is I didn't know what was coming. The jokes were genuinely so funny. It was just a blast. And I think when you know what the story is going to be or you have some familiarity, there's some part of it that you're kind of like, okay, I already know what this is about. And that kind of loses part of the experience. Obsession is another good example. I went and I don't do horror, but I had a blast. And part of it was that like, I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I think horror really excels with that because for the genre, it's like hard to adapt when people know how things are going to end in that way. But there's a lot of original content happening on YouTube and TikTok. And I hope that those people are plucked the way that Curry Barker was and the way that, I'm forgetting the Backrooms guy's name, Kane Parsons, the way that they were both plucked from YouTube and given this opportunity. There's so many creators and not just white male creators, people of color, women doing this work out there. And I just hope that that's the lesson that Hollywood takes. There are original stories actually, and all of these people have really big followings on YouTube. The proof is there, so it's giving them the opportunity to perform on the next stage instead of just keep going back to the same well. Another thing I think that's interesting is with all of the studio mergers and all that stuff, a lot of I think what drives that is like having access to those libraries. So that they can do these like spin-offs and reboots and revivals, and like it's just cynical in my opinion because again it comes back to like the financial drive behind these things.
I think, and this is true, and also something that like execs and whomever think is people find comfort in familiar characters and storylines often, but they can also get stagnant. And in some cases, like seeing characters that you like just kind of go through some new complicated adventure is maybe not the move. Sometimes the atmosphere of it isn't enough without those characters. Again, there's just so many variables. Curious to see how Ted Lasso season 4 pans out.
I think maybe bottom line, what we're saying is we're not fully against the idea of these. There is a place for a revival or a reboot, a spin-off, adaptations, of course. I just don't want that to be the only output. And for a while, it has felt like that is the only output and everything dominating the box office. I think I heard this on The Town where it was like 8 out of 10 of the highest grossing things are sequels. It just feels so sad that that's the case. And I'm hoping that we're coming out of that being the norm. It'll still happen, but want space for the other stuff to also flourish.
Do you have a favorite reboot revival spinoff?
So I thought about this very late. Mine is The Parent Trap because I'm pretty sure there was like a 1940s version and then
I think 70s or something?
okay, whatever. I don't know what year, but there was a previous version. And then, of course, we got the one with Lindsay Lohan and just like an excellent.
Did you almost say the Lohan twins?
I almost said the Olsen twins, and I was like, literally, yeah, just thriving. I was trying to think because in TV, I just like couldn't. My brain was not working, so I couldn't think of anything. But The Parent Trap is where I have landed.
That's a really good one. I think I've seen the original like one time, but yeah, because for us again, so to the girl meets world, boy meets world thing, like we have no connection to the Haley Mills Parent Trap. So Lindsay Lohan Parent Trap was like, the thing and was like so fresh and exciting and fun, and it's very different from the original.
Yeah.
That was the other thing is like reviving things used to mean actually reviving and not like for
Well,
being.
and that's like a full, if you like, don't really reboot a film, but it's literally just a remake of the same thing. So you don't need to know anything about the original movie to enjoy this one. Girl Meets World is kind of different because it's a continuation of some sort. Yeah, but still, the goal is always to be able to still enjoy it without needing to know the original franchise.
Yeah.
Okay, what's yours?
Mine is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off on Netflix. And I am a diehard Scott Pilgrim fan. I could quote the entire movie right now, and just that could be the whole episode. It's very just near and dear to me.
That'll be for subscribers only.
Yeah.
Patreon.
Yes. And I'll release it in parts, really rake in the cash. But yeah, I read the graphic novels and they were so fun and funny. I saw the trailer for that movie and I was like, yes, all in. And it has just been one of my favorite things, one of my comfort watches for 16 years now. I was so excited for that Netflix revival because it was the original creative team, Brian Lee O'Malley, who wrote the graphic novels. The entire cast came back, which is like borderline unheard of. And then they did a totally new story. The way the first episode is kind of follows what the comics did and what the movie did, and then it goes in a totally new direction that was so much fun. Really preserved the sense of humor of the original, but then also brought in those inside jokes in a fun way, but then had so many new ones to offer, so many crazy side quests, and there's so much freedom in the animation format too, that made it automatically distinguished it from the live action from 2010. So that is such a fun, brilliant show, and hats off to them for pulling it off.
Okay, I haven't watched that, but I will get on it. Okay, cool. So tell us what your favorite reboot, revival, spin-off adaptation is, how you feel about this current state in Hollywood, and if you agree with us, because you could totally disagree with our take on everything. Let us know in our comments or DM us. You can email us at promredproductions@gmail.com.
I almost was like, we have merch, but we don't have merch.
But we could have merch. If the demand is there, who's to say?
It's a revenue stream.
Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode, because I don't know if it's gonna be next week.
I was like, what are you gonna sign me up for?
I was like, I'm promising things that I can't keep. All right, bye.
Bye. I hate tequila.